Hi, ladies. How are you?
Hey, Amy.
We are here today to celebrate these 4 fabulous, talented women, but also to celebrate the top 30 women in food by Lunchbox. I am Amy Hom, and I am on the advisory council. But today it is all about these 4 ladies, and we're going to get kicked off here by introducing them. So we will start with Mrs. Stutz.
Hey, I'm Karen Stutz, and thanks for having me. And honestly, we pay
well.
I'm actually just delighted to be here, and honestly, just humbled to be included with all of these women in the top 30 in food. It's nice to be recognized. I think in my final chapter, so to speak, in the restaurant industry, I would say now in my give back years, I have been a restaurant operator for 5 decades, working for big brands like Red Robin, Applebee's, Chili's, Wendy's, McAllister's Deli, and so on. And I just wouldn't change a thing. So hopefully now that, as I said, in my give back years, I have the opportunity to reach down in the organizations and help bring women and great leaders along, helping them see their potential and just make the industry a better place. We have a little bit of a PR problem in the industry, but I think people who get in and understand it can find that it could be the absolute best career ever.
100%. And we are lucky to have you. I'm blessed personally to have you. Over to Miss Kim.
Hello, everyone. Kim DeCarlos with Craveworthy Brands. I've spent most of my career on the vendor side, so growing up through restaurant technology with PCI compliance, network security, Punch, so loyalty, CRM, into reservations, and then food safety. So I feel like I've touched every area of the business prior to coming over brand side. And now I'm in the brand side. So a lot of learnings there, a lot of great women along the way. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
I wish I knew you back when I needed VIP reservations. It would have definitely helped. Yeah. And Miss Fabulous Glasses, Anna, who are you?
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm really chuffed to be included with the Lunchbox list too. It's amazing. My name is Anna Todson. I am the head of marketing for Big Chicken, which is a 30 plus location by the time this comes out, probably. Chicken QSR brand, co-founded by Shaquille O'Neal, which I think everybody knows who he is.
We know him.
He's
and we know you just like we know Shaq.
I love that. But I'm also the principal of the Good Kind Consulting, which is a marketing consulting firm. So I'm just so excited to be here and gossip with my new favorite friend.
I love it. That's awesome. And Miss Chrissy.
Well, I have, a lot like you, been around the industry for most of my life, 30 years. Kind of grew up in the restaurant industry. My first job.
Don't look like you've been around that long. Nor does Karen, but we'll leave that there.
Thank you so much. First job was at Sonic on roller skates.
Ooh,
how did you do
that? Isn't that crazy? I love telling that story.
That's
Dumped
an
a few
awesome
cherry limeades and some laps from time to time.
Only the cute boys. That's okay.
Right.
On purpose, I'm sure.
But Chrissy Willette, I'm currently heading up sales and partnerships at Lunchbox. Been on the vendor side for the majority of my career. Helped build Spot On to a $4 billion company.
Wow.
Yes. And before that was in the payments, dealt a lot with PCI compliance, but always very focused on the hospitality industry. And I am delighted to be here with each of you.
You badass women. That's all I have to say. All right, we're going to ask a few roundtable questions. Is everybody ready?
Sure,
This is
let's
not
do it.
rapid round, so
Let's
we'll just
do it.
share and care. All right, so we'll start with Anna. Anna, how do you approach career development, especially when considering moves from one brand to another?
So I think that it's changed a lot over the years, right? I mean, like Chrissy, I got my start in the restaurant industry. I was a graveyard
Not on
shift.
roller skates?
I was not on roller skates. I was known as like the surly waitress at Denny's. I worked the graveyard shift for, I don't know how long it was. It felt like years, but it was probably like 6 months. But it was really interesting back then. But I think previous to like the millennial generation coming up, it was really normal to stay with a brand for a long time and sort of work your way up the ladder. And that's gone away. Like that doesn't exist anymore. And now it's really normal to jump from brand to brand, to jump from brand side to tech side, like all of us have done, and to gather skills along the way. I think someone told me recently that don't think about like, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? What do you need to cultivate right now? And then wherever comes next will happen next. I don't know if that answered your question properly.
Yes.
But
It's
sort
great.
of how I think about things right now. And so like right now I'm the head of marketing for Big Chicken and it's amazing. I'm learning tons of different lessons, but is that forever? Probably not. And none of the positions we're in are forever. And that's really okay.
Yeah.
And I think it really gives us an awesome opportunity to bring up other people with us.
I love your keyword cultivating too, because I think that's a keyword.
You know what I like too? I was just going to say, based on what you said, as I grew up, I always wanted to keep myself in operations. And I think in the restaurant industry, sometimes we have some really great bosses and sometimes not so great, but you learn from both. But I always felt like the P&L was my scorecard. So I always knew, like, as long as I had that, I knew if I was doing well. But looking back on my career, I think I would have been more well-rounded when I had opportunities to step into something like HR, or step into training, or step into marketing. And I think I probably would have been a more effective executive sooner had I had rounded myself out a little bit more. So I think it's perfectly okay to step into different disciplines and expand some of your knowledge. Doesn't mean you can't go back and get it, because I certainly had to do it to do that. But I think early in my career, I would have probably thought, kind of like what you just said, it's okay to step into other things.
I think one of the cool things about moving from brand to brand is you can have two brands that basically from the outside look very, very similar, but we all know from the inside, no matter how similar they look from the outside, they're wildly different on the inside, right? And so I think when you're able to bring what you learned, what you executed that was successful at one into another that may have some of the same issues, it helps value cultivate for you to take the next leap up. So I think moving around from brand to brand is, you know what, some people might say, like back when we stayed with jobs for a very long time, right? They would think that that's not good, but I think now it's like definitely an advantage for the brands bringing on the people who are moving around. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, we talked about sea of sameness was like a big buzzword, I think, throughout the 90s into that. But you think like an Applebee's, a Chili's, and a Fridays. What's the difference? Well, they're very different, but it's so interesting. You're right. What does the consumer see? And that's really what counts.
Yeah,
I think leaders need to look at their staff and see how they can cross-train and get them invested in other areas, because they have to be given the opportunity, which is the big piece. So Kimmy, I call you Kimmy. Call me Kim. So Kimmy.
Okay.
What were some of the early lessons you learned in your career, and how have they influenced your strategic moves within the industry?
It's a great question. So early on, I think I was my number one doubter, everything I've ever done. And I've had some very good mentors along the way that have pushed me in areas that I think perhaps I never would have done on my own. And I think probably the area of opportunity there is just trusting to fail. Like, it's okay if you try it and fail, because if you don't try it, the answer is still no, or the opportunity was never there. And you can learn a lot of good things along the way that will come through at very opportunistic points in your life where you're like, I did learn this at one point. And so it just never stop trying, and always having people in your corner that support you, that say, and never stop being curious. So ask questions that are saying, I'm not trying to be naive here, but why are we doing this? Or tell me a little bit more about this so I can understand it, and get to that area of opportunity where you're kind of getting ninja skilled within different areas that perhaps you wouldn't touch daily. I would say that's something you need to do.
For me, it's just being an advocate for yourself. I know I've told this story on several different stages, but it's really, I think, just such important advice for people to, again, as you were just saying, feel comfortable to speak up. When I was trying to move up early in my career, I was passed over 7 times for a job. And on that 7th time, I'm walking into the headquarters, and my boss is standing out there, and he's so excited. And he's got this big old smile, and he says, it's going to be a great day, Karen. I've got great news. I'm thinking, yes, this is it. I am finally going to get promoted, because there's someone here I want you to meet. This is Howard, and once again, we're going to ask you to train him, and he's going to be your new boss.
Oh, no.
And I sat there, and I threw my hands on my hips, and I said, are you kidding me? When is it going to be my turn? And he looked at me and said, are you kidding me? There's not a person in this organization that thinks you want to be promoted. And it was like, I had never spoke up for myself. I just assumed, gosh, wait, I missed this promotion. Wait, are my food costs good enough? Are my restaurants clean enough? Am I training enough people? Am I exporting enough talent? Each time I tried to work through my mind to say, what could I be doing differently that I would be noticed? And what I really figured out was, if you don't step up and speak up for yourself, it's not going to happen. It's simply not the way the game is played. You have to speak up, to your point, Kim.
You could definitely have to be your biggest cheerleader,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're not, who's going to be?
And it's not comfortable for a lot of people, but you've got to be able to do it. Right? You got to know your worth.
I think it's easy to have self-doubt, right? Especially as females in a male-dominated industry. It's easy for us to doubt ourselves, and can we make it to the top, and how hard do we have to work, and how many hours do we have to put in to get that visibility? But you're right, you got to believe in yourself and put yourself out there.
True.
Yeah.
You know, you think back now as an executive, you go back and you visit restaurants, and then I'll go back like a year later and see that same person like, oh my God, you remember when you were here and like, oh my God, we had this really long line and you had to jump in and help and all this. And I was like, seriously, you've been worrying about that for a year? So now if I ever leave a restaurant and things aren't going all that well, the first thing I say is, okay, when I walk out this door, I have a high level of confidence that this is not going to happen again. You fix it. Please don't spend the next year worrying about it, because women especially do that to themselves. You play this
It's the
loop
inner critic
in your head,
constantly.
and you worry about it when, like, I'm done. I know we solved it, and we're moving forward. But
Yeah. Short memory.
I just want to give people permission to let it go.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you run into any of those issues along the
Kidding
path?
me? Are you kidding me? I mean, I've had the weirdest career path, honestly. Like, I was a journalist in the beginning, and that's how I think I connect really well with other people. And then I was done with journalism, and I went to the National Restaurant Association as a coder. Actually, I was a front-end coder.
Wow.
And realized fairly quickly that restaurants didn't have a clue about technology. Not at all. And so I was like, well, I think I can help them. And so I created this role in this career within restaurant technology and restaurant tech marketing along the way. And that's where I met Karen originally.
That's true.
And then I moved over to the Texas Restaurant Association, did a lot there with revenue building.
And that's where we met.
That's where we met.
Yep.
I remember the last call. Actually, the last call on my last day was to Christy.
Yes.
I was like, I don't know about this moving forward. And she's like, I'm busy.
With love.
But she had big plans coming
With
right around the
love.
corner. Anyway, yeah, I
Yes.
know. It was amazing. And then I moved to Chow Now, and then, which was a role created for me, and then created my own company and have ended up in restaurant marketing, which is like my favorite. But are you kidding me? Like, the idea of like imposter syndrome along the way is because no one's ever done this, right? We're carving things right now that have never been done before. And there was actually a speech at the Oscars on Sunday. I don't know if you ladies watched it, but Divine Joy Randolph, who won Best Supporting Actress for The Holdovers, which is an impeccable film, by the way. She said, I always wanted to be different, and then I realized I just needed to be myself. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit there, but the idea of that is so, it just hits me right in the chest. And I think about that a lot because I have, knock on wood, accomplished getting over imposter syndrome, but I remember that. I know what that feels like. And I think about that when I think of the people that I mentor now. And I think, oh gosh, are they worried about something that happened a year ago? How can I reassure them so that they feel valued and heard and seen, and help them through that as well? Because I don't want anyone to have to suffer for a decade like I did, wondering if I was in the right place, wondering if I was making a difference.
You did.
Yes. Still are.
And still continue.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, speaking of that, like, talk a little bit about advocates, mentors, and sponsors. And I know that we've talked about this offline and how important it is in our careers to have them. And there's women that we meet now that, you know, will say, I've never had a mentor. And they honestly just seem a little lost at times, or they don't know how to get one. And so I've been very blessed to have a lot of them. Karen's one of my main ones, but just curious on your thoughts on having them along your career path.
I've made some really, really tough decisions in the last couple of years, that have changed my life drastically. Like, leaving Spot On was probably the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. And I wanted to take time off. I wanted to take 6 months off, recharge my batteries. I built, helped build this company. I put in 70, 80 hours work weeks for years and years. And I called one of my mentors and I said, I'm going to take some time off. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I need to recharge my batteries. And he said, look, you made this wonderful post. You've got so much visibility right now. Like, people have seen what you did, what you helped put together there. He's like, don't take off too much time because you don't want to become irrelevant.
Interesting.
Jeez. And I said,
Was that helpful or harmful?
It was eye-opening.
Yeah.
Very, very eye-opening. He said, you can probably write your ticket right now. He said, if you take 6 months
What was
off.
going through your head when he was asking you that?
I was just I wanted so badly to go to the grocery store in the middle of the day on a Wednesday, with the senior citizens. I just wanted to push my cart and do some yoga at noon. I don't know. I just wanted to take some time. But as he's telling me that, and I'm thinking, and I'm looking at my LinkedIn post that has 8,000 impressions and 100 comments and that sort of thing, I'm like, am I making the right decision by trying to step away for a little bit for like my own mental health and for my family and to give a little bit there. And I decided to not take 6 months off. And
Interesting.
I landed here at Lunchbox in almost 1 year exactly. And it's been a wild ride. And I'm looking back, I'm kind of glad I didn't take the 6 months off.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is
Yeah,
interesting.
it's been a lot of fun.
Just maybe finding the right home.
Maybe.
It made all the
Yeah,
difference.
it made all the
I
difference.
can't believe it's only been a year.
I know, it feels like
It's like 5.
I think it feels like that.
That's
whenever-
restaurant years compared to real
Yes,
life.
it is.
Honestly.
Restaurant years are like dog years for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we should share like our skincare routine. I feel like we have a lot. It's all about hydration.
That's funny. Which we're not getting here in Vegas.
No, I know. We
I
have
think
to
I've
drink
drank
water.
like
I know.
18 gallons of water.
I'll share a story about my mentor. It was Lou Kosick. He was the chief people officer at Applebee's. And I'd come into Applebee's as the senior vice president of operations. So I had company operations. And I wanted to get that EVP COO role to oversee all of almost 2,000 restaurants, right, with the franchise community as well. So I knew that the person that was in the role was going to be moving up to the CEO role. So I bravely went in, being an advocate for myself, and I said to Lou, I said, hey, I'd like to put my name in for the EVP of Ops role. And he's like, that's interesting. Okay, that's not the
That's
response
not the
you're
response
looking
you're
for.
looking for. There goes that. There's the self-doubt, right?
Oh, no more
Yeah.
comes here.
Jeez.
And so, and honestly, guy, this has been my best mentor. I call him for any kind of weird thing. But he looked at me and he said, let me ask you a question. Who is in the room when the decision is made for a promotion? Who's going to be in the room? And I'm like, well, the 7 guys that are on the senior team, right? And he goes, well, let me ask you this. How many of them are going to support you? And I'm thinking, my gosh, our stock has tripled. We've got outstanding, reviews. I mean, we really have moved the needle on the company side. And I'm like, well, all of them. And he said, okay, well, let me ask you this. He always says it that way. How many times have any of the people in the room come to you and ask you for any advice in the last year? I said, well, none. I'm always on the road. I'm out in the restaurants, right? And he goes, well, how many times have you gone to them and sought their counsel for something? And I'm like, none. And he goes, okay, I'm going to ask you that question again.
Interesting.
How many are going to support you? And I had to say 0. I did not have a network within my own company. And again, my old advice when I said, if you're going to work on your career and you want to keep your head down and hope someone notices, again, it's not how the game is played. So guess what? I wasn't going to be considered for that role. But for the next 6 months, I went out and built a network, spent time with all of them, got to know them. And of course, then I finally got the role. But what a lesson to think about it. And you start to think about promotions being, are they political or whatever? It's simply thinking of it, framing it differently. Who's in the room and who's going to be supporting you? But I thought it was some of the best mentoring that I've ever gotten in my career.
That's interesting because I think a lot of times we think if we put our head down, right? And we try to
Somebody
outwork
will
the
notice.
next person and we grow the numbers and our profit and loss statement is where it needs to be and our reviews are where it needs to be and we have ROI coming in. Somebody's going to just automatically notice that. But unfortunately, that is not the way this works.
It's not. It's not.
Networking might be just as, if not, a little bit more important. A little bit more.
Because we've got the results.
Yeah.
It's never about that anymore,
Yeah.
right?
What about you, Kim? Have you had mentors or ambassadors along the way?
I've been very
Advocates.
fortunate to have some very good advocates, sponsors, mentors along the way. And I think I struggle right now because in a way I feel the word mentorship is like popular right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, you need to give back. You need to make sure you're mentoring someone, but you can't mentor someone just by saying, I'm going to be your mentor.
Sure.
There needs to be, to your point, of a level of trust and a level of networking where they feel comfortable to share their with you to help coach them. And I just can't say, nice to meet you, so I'm going to be your mentor. And it's just like, you just can't, there's not
It has to be
organic.
offensive.
It has
Okay,
to
how
be
does this
yes,
work?
and it's just like this. And so I find myself struggling with that because, they're like, oh, who are you mentoring or who are you helping with? And I have some wonderful people that I've worked with along the way that will say that. I'm like, oh, really? I'm your mentor? And they're like, yeah, you help me and I call you when you need this, but I don't even look at it as that. I look at it as just being a friend in the industry.
Yeah, right.
And then other people come up to me and formally say, will you be my mentor? I'm like, I hope I can help you. I don't know. Like, I just, and so for me, I just think that word is a little bit buzzy. And so as long as I think we're being, to your point, authentic, and we're networking and we're sharing things that we've struggled with, and we're sharing our successes, that people will look up to you and then organically come to you. And it doesn't have to be such a formal mentorship, where I think that's where I struggle with personally, because I'm like, I don't know how to help you. I don't know what you need from me.
Right.
Can I make a plug for Gleam though?
Of course.
One of the nonprofits
Yes.
that it's the first time I've really worked with someone who started a nonprofit. It's we're a 501c3, 100% volunteer organization, gleamnetwork.net. So it's easier to network.net, right? And you can go on and get a mentor. We paired over 400 mentors and mentees in the industry for someone who wants to work on one big thing. Might be one big thing that's holding you back in your career. Or like we talked about before, I took a mentor so I could learn marketing and learn more about that, because it was something that I didn't have when everything was going digital. And I ended up like being at Nielsen, and they had met me at a lot of different, it was so cool. Things that I would have never thought I would have experienced by getting a mentor to learn, a discipline that I really didn't have a lot of experience in. So, but if you're looking for a mentor, or you want to be a mentor, great, please sign up. Or a mentee, go to gleamnetwork.net and find someone there that can help you, that has expertise to work on that one big thing. And you get a mentor for 6 months. It's fabulous.
That's awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
I
Love that you're
definitely
starting
want to
that.
shout out like a couple of mentors that I've had, and it's very similar. There's never been a structured mentorship
Right.
that I've ever had, but there are certainly people that I call and I feel like I annoy them sometimes, but they're always willing to chat with me, which is really great. I mean, Julia Knaus from NRA, Phil Kafarakis, who's now with IFMA, Corrine Tropin, who I was with Chow Now, like Chris Webb, like all these people have just been advocates and supporters in my career as well, especially when you're carving into something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like you need to have someone who's really looking out for you. And also, thank you. As a marketer to an operations person, thank you for an operations person looking at marketing and saying like, this seems valuable. Because like, I can't tell you the number of times ops people are like, what do you do again? And I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
No, we need you. We
Yes,
need
we
you.
do.
We need you. Okay, we're going to switch the chat a little bit to some restaurant success stories. So, what is one methodology or principle that you bring to every team or company you're part of? And one of the things that we've been discussing at Lunchbox a little bit is your strengths, and I think Chrissy's taking that, and what you bring to the table, like what are your assets? So I'm just curious.
as a creative person in a creative industry, I bring structure, honestly. I feel like that's what I bring to everything. So I have a template for a brief that I've used at like lots of different companies. And it's usually to get at what an operations person is trying to do. Because they're like, or a chef is like, I want to run an LTO. And you're like, cool. Why? Who's the audience? Like, what are we going to price it at? Is there a time of year we're going to do that? And so I use a document that I've created back in my National Restaurant Association days to get at that. And then I also use something called RACI, R-A-C-I.
I've used that.
So helpful,
We use
honestly.
races all the time.
It's the best, and it's so easy for people to understand where they fall in sort of the pecking order on a given
And you
project.
don't need to reinvent Racy. It just works. It's
It
a
just-
classic go-to.
It just works. So those two structures have really helped me, and they seem so simple, right? RACI.
Do you want to tell the audience what a Racy is? Just
It's responsible, accountable, consulted and informed.
Yep.
I feel really
Good
proud
job.
of myself.
Good job, you.
Acronyms.
Yeah, we just used one last week. Yes, it's a good.
Huh.
If Nabil was here, he would say, Chrissy brings chaos. I do. But I do it because I want people to think, right? I think it's incredibly important. And I think just from like my background and where I've been, and like, I always try to think, if we do this, how is it going to affect this team, this team, this team, and this team, right? Because I don't want to be the causer of chaos for every team and all of it's flowing downhill. So I bring a little bit of chaos there because I will push back a lot.
Healthy chaos.
Yeah, healthy chaos. But I think the most important thing that I really, really pride myself on is like, I'm a damn hard worker. I am, and I will work until I see the finish line, and I'm going to push, and I'm going to push back, and I'm going to get very creative and think outside the box to figure out, it's here, I'm here, how am I getting there?
Mm-hmm.
Without disrupting so many other things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really what has gotten me, it's gotten me to where I am today. It's just like, I'm like, put my head down, go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Sounds like you built good strategy.
Mhm.
What about you?
So for myself, I would say one of the things I pride myself on is leaving titles at the table. 90% of the time I'm registering for a conference and I don't actually know my title. I have to go to LinkedIn to look because
love
it
it.
doesn't really matter. I mean, at the end of the day, it
Yeah.
does not matter. And so, leaving titles at the door. We had a grand opening in Dallas recently, and I was in the back and so sweet. The general manager's like, just move. I'm like, yep, I'm out of your way. I'm sorry. But it was, it had to help start packaging bags and, running lines. And I have no issues with that. It's not my role. I'm not in operations. And I'm just happy to help and be a player.
Yeah,
so
sure.
there's something to be said about just, what do you need me to do today to move our
Total
move our
team.
company forward? So
Yeah.
very team mentality. And I
I
think
do.
that's something that
I love
a
that
lot
too.
of people
I always just think it doesn't really matter what title you give me. Tell me what decisions I'm allowed to make.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
That's really what I want to
Yep,
know, because
sure.
that's going to make a big difference
Yep.
in really what
am I
my role
empowered
is
to do?
here.
I always call it swim
Exactly.
lanes, and I think I need to
Huh.
retitle that. But I'm like, what are my swim lanes?
I like
where
swim
do
lanes.
where do I need to
Guardrails.
go?
Guardrails.
Guardrails.
My
Like,
swim
I can
lanes
swim
straight
out.
out.
yeah,
I
like
like
my,
that.
if I get bumped here and there,
Yeah.
just tell me what I need to
Chaos
do.
Bumper
procedure here.
cars.
Yeah.
Crossing the
Yes.
lines over here.
Can I talk about financial skills? So I think
Yes.
that's what I
Yes.
bring.
Yes.
I feel like as an operator, kind of growing up, like we talked before, you really get to know your P&L. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, there's a balance sheet and there's a statement of cash flow, right? And if you look at your reports, mostly I've worked for public companies. And so, reading the earnings report, you're an operator, you're like, I have no idea what any of this means, right? And so I love finance. If I didn't do ops, I'd do finance and I probably made a lot more money, but that's okay.
I think you're okay.
Yeah, I'm okay. But as I
Get back.
You made some good decisions. I think you're fine.
but anyway, I really think that when you try to figure out like if someone's going to get a seat at the table, if you can't hold your own talking about the finances, you don't belong there. And so I try to make it as comfortable as possible. So whether you're talking about return on invested capital or return on assets or your statement of cash flow or free cash flow or capital, all those different things, they're just simple terms. And what I realized when finance people, like, you said you go into the restaurant, like, get out of my way, right? They're just as uncomfortable sometimes coming into the restaurant. We have our own set of acronyms, but for people to advance, you have to learn financial skills. So I incorporate that into everything at every level to make sure people feel totally comfortable asking questions. And you have to ask questions.
You do.
And
You have to be curious.
And yep. So
I used to be scared of budgeting early in my career because I thought it meant I couldn't do things, right? Like I wanted to do all the cool project with national and everything. And once I embraced like the idea of budgeting and learning, my P&L and what I was responsible for, it was thrilling to be able to actually like put some pressure here to see something happen over here. And that's one of the things too that like I try to encourage like the interns that we have and any junior staff as well. It's like, look, like this is what we're doing with. I don't know if we could say we practice open book management, but like I want people to know, and I don't know nearly as much as you do about finance, but like it's thrilling. It's thrilling to see those numbers.
people love talking about money.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
They
yeah, it's really fun. So
do.
that's what I bring.
If you had to tell the audience, younger females coming up in the business, younger men as well, what advice would you give them? Because it is a different generation right now. Things have definitely gone on a little bit of a pivot. And the restaurant industry is 15-year high on turnover in the business. Not jumping to another brand, they're actually just leaving the industry altogether. So curious what advice you'd give them.
I have 4 kids, and 3 of them have already worked in the restaurant industry. 2 of them still. And it's not long term for them. I think like working in the restaurant is a rite of passage, right? I think everybody should have to work in retail, at least for a little stint, and then the restaurant industry. Because serving people gives you some people skills that you might not get anywhere else. So I think like coming up, whether you're on the brand side or whether you get into the tech world, I think like the biggest thing is to remember this is the hospitality industry. And I think we've gotten far away from that. It's almost like it's become a means to an end, right? I need food. Okay, here it is. Like I can dial it up. Somebody will drop it off on my front door, take a picture of it, text it to me. Like all of the technology. But still, at the end of the day, this is the hospitality industry. It's supposed to be hospitable, right? And I think like in any position that you're in, you got to keep that in mind, even from the tech side. But I think I would say hospitable. Remember, that's the basis of this industry, no matter what corner of it you're in.
Yeah.
That's great. What about you? Any advice? Or why it's so sexy? Because I love this industry.
Yeah,
like it gets
me
in
too.
your blood.
Yeah.
It sticks in your blood.
Yep.
And you see a lot of, what do they say? You jump your career 3 or 4 times.
Yep.
And I think you can do that in this industry, and it's transferable, and you can come from nothing and get very far.
100%.
So, you know, how do we tell people, how do we get that out there? Because I think people don't realize that.
Well, I think there is something to the sexiness for sure. I mean, we get to do some cool shit, right? I mean,
We're here today in Vegas.
We're going to Vegas. We get to go to cool openings. We're friends with chefs. I mean, have you ever dated a line cook? Like, there's something to that moment.
Have you ever dated a line cook?
I married a
my
grown-up
gosh.
line cook, so I feel very
I love that. That's
But
what's sexy about it.
it
You
is.
can date and marry a line cook.
You can. Luckily, he's a chef and actually professional now, so it's like we're good. But I think, you know, some advice for people, you know, to get to that sexiness, to stay within it, kindness and boundaries. I think that just kind of goes along with hospitality, but like especially for women, be kind to everyone possible. It's not hard, but have a boundary.
Yes.
Don't let people walk all over you. Don't let them badmouth you.
So good.
Don't let them say mean shit. Like, call them on it, because they won't expect it, frankly. A lot of people say things in this industry behind our back, and they don't expect you to follow up and say, hey, I heard this. It really catches them off guard, and I think it's really important to
The
stand up for
accountability
yourself.
piece. Yeah.
Extremely, yeah. But I would say that those are 2 things. If you're able to stick with that and hospitality, like you'll be fine. You'll make it really far. And I think, you know, looking out for the people behind you is really important too.
100%. Bring them with you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kim, any great advice?
A couple of mine are very silly, but they're just easy to remember. And so, like one of them is, I truly got this in a fortune cookie, but I swear to God, it was a fortune.
I remember you told me this.
love it.
Okay,
But it was like, we judge ourselves by our intentions and we judge others by actions. And so like, if you don't follow up with me, I'm like, oh, she forgot about me, blah, blah, blah. But then in my mind, I'm driving to the grocery store on a Wednesday and I'm like, oh, I meant to call Karen the other day. I have to do that. And I'm thinking of you, but you don't see that. And so I think as long as we're intentional and then we give grace for people who perhaps are not, and understand that we're not the center of everyone's world is okay, right? And to understand that perhaps I can say, hey, I know we were supposed to follow up. Time has passed, and just be honest. Just call a spade a spade. I meant to follow up. We never connected. Is now still a good time? And be genuine in your networking. And then also to the point of, I said, giving grace is be a goldfish. A goldfish spins in a circle all the time, right? It's a Ted Lasso, cute little thing, but it's still, it bounces off of you if you stop taking things so internally and taking it about you. You don't know what you're doing from day to day. You don't know when your flight is, what's going on in your home life. And so if you're just like, it was a really weird interaction, you're just like, let it go. Like just move on. If you overthink it, then you're literally
Slows
creating
down your
drama.
productivity.
Yes, it's just distracting.
Yeah,
And so those are
100%.
two things that I think that perhaps younger people growing up through the restaurant industry can get distracted with. And I think if you're just focusing on what you're supposed to do, give people grace, they're humans, is really the best way to go. It's good advice. Love.
Yeah. Gosh, things have changed so much. I look back and navigating, you know, again, I think some back 70s, 80s, you know, 90s for a long time. There weren't a lot of females in the industry. And I remember I just finally gotten a promotion and then I found out I was pregnant, right? You know how that goes. And my boss was like, you need to get an abortion.
No.
Seriously.
What?
Seriously.
You know, it could have been 2024.
Yeah.
It was like,
Who knows?
It still
You
happens.
just
That's
wonder
crazy
what
happens.
people say. We just promoted you, right? And it's like, you know, it was like something derogatory. Like, obviously you celebrated too much or something. I mean, so disgusting. But I think of like a gazillion disgusting things along my my path. But, you know, I think that's pretty much like crossing the line in a pretty big way. But you think about it, it's the grit, it's the tenacity, it's making yourself visible. If you're working for restaurants, you know, it's like, okay, wait, the restaurant closest to the headquarters is open. Put your hand up. You're going to know everybody at the headquarters, right? I mean, you just have to be confident to put yourself out there. And if you fail, you say, you know what, I missed that one. I didn't get that right. You know, here's what I learned from it. I'm okay. I'm
Move
just
on.
okay. But just a lot of, a lot of things interesting. And I hope that all of the work that we've all done as women, moving up our careers, have left the path a little easier for this next generation of women.
Yep.
And then we've done our jobs well. We don't have to come to work acting like, well, I'm female and you're not, or whatever. You just come to work to do a great
Yeah,
job.
good job.
You
That's
put your
exactly
gender
correct.
aside.
Yep.
You step up, you do the work, but you also, again, have to say it again over and over, you have to know your worth. You have to know that you add value and be confident with that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Karen, thank you. Thank you for doing the hard work for us.
Yes.
Like, honestly,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
can't
thank
imagine
you.
someone saying that to like my daughter, when she goes to work. And it's because you did it and told them that wasn't okay.
yeah.
And I think there's
Jeez.
still a lot of that stuff out there. You still hear stuff and you're just,
100%. Yeah.
I had a CEO say to me a couple weeks ago, I don't really want to put women in the business because I don't want to deal with sexual harassment or somebody saying something. And I said, we need to have a conversation. Like that's not appropriate or okay. You need to add women into your business. And it's proven to make the business better. So,
It is,
but
for
you do
sure.
have to know your business.
Yeah.
Ladies, what do you see in your brands that you feel like needs to be elevated, focused on? Anything that you're working on that you want to share within the businesses? I know, Karen, you're on a few boards. I don't know if you want to share a little bit. I know some of them are publicly traded because you can't share everything, but anything that's like shining, glowing out there.
Honestly, I've sit on two boards, Hawaiian Bros and Curry Revolving Sushi Bar, and two brands, both in
So
their
good.
50 to 59 restaurants. And you just kind of look at what's happening in the restaurant industry today. Two incredibly successful brands that deserve to grow, right? So I think as you're starting to look at brands right now, it's finding affordable capital. I think right now you just start to see the cost of real estate, construction costs, where inflation has really hit the restaurant industry incredibly hard. We're starting to see a little bit of improvement in food costs. Labor, no.
Labor's going
That's
the
just
wrong
going to
way.
continue to go
Yeah, minimum
up.
wage.
But we really haven't seen much relief, especially in urban areas
Mm-hmm.
with rent, construction costs, or all of that. And so I think that's the hardest part for these brands who really are in a great position to grow, not to make decisions to grow at any cost, but to grow at responsible cost.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I think that's something that I'm seeing right now. And I think,
You're focusing on as a board member
Yeah,
for the brands.
yeah.
That's great. They're lucky to have you. Anybody else? So stuff that's popping up?
So I actually just got added to my first board.
Congrats!
Yay!
All right. Love that.
Marquee, actually. So
yeah, that's right.
by the time this comes out, that will be public. So it's
We
okay to
just
talk
met them,
about.
We met
Chelsea and the
them.
team last night.
They're
Well, they were
wonderful.
all
We had
there
some
with
wine
us.
with them. They're great.
They are wonderful, and the technology that they've created is really, really amazing. And I
I
love
heard.
it. I use
Kelsey
it all
was
the
sharing,
time.
yeah.
Like it's fantastic. And so I think as an advisor for restaurant technology, I'm always trying to help the brands I work with, whether as a board member or as an advisor, to like really focus on the end goal. Like who are we actually doing this work for? And especially when we talk to restaurant tech marketers or salespeople. Oh my God, we could tell some stories about them.
In a good way, team. In a good way.
Questionable. It's helping them understand like what is the end goal. The end goal is hospitality. So
Sure.
like let's keep that in mind as we move forward. And then on the big chicken side, we just launched our loyalty platform with Thanks last week.
Congrats.
Thank
Big
you.
deal.
Thank
It's
you.
a big
It's
deal. A lot of
huge
work.
Lift.
Yeah.
And we are the fastest to ever do it, actually. So I feel really good about that. We launched in
Lunchbox also has a great loyalty program.
That's
Just a plug.
So I think for me on the brand side, I'm really focused this year on engagement and evangelism. So using Thanks as a tool, but also things that are happening in store and
That's
working with our
awesome.
franchisees to
Yeah.
give people those experiences. So that's for 24.
Congrats.
That's what we're working on.
But big into your top women in food, and then now you're on the board. That's awesome.
I
Big
know.
year,
Love it.
2024.
Love it.
The year of Anna.
I remember, funny story about Marquis.
Yeah.
Avi,
Love them.
when he was like, him and his co-founder, very first food show they were ever at, Western States in California in 2019.
Oh my
His booth
gosh.
was right beside the spot on food.
Aww.
I was
They're
like, what
growing.
are these guys doing? I cannot even wrap my head around
And look at
this.
them now.
And now they've just skyrocketed. So
They're
that's
doing great
awesome.
things. Yeah.
Kudos to those guys. We do have a partnership with Marquis at Lunchbox,
Mhm.
so pretty exciting there. Gosh, we spent like 2023 at Lunchbox prepping to go up market, right?
Yeah.
Lunchbox was very S&B focused for the first several years. And at the end of the day, it's not a product built for S&B. Like, it's really for people who, brands who are focused on building their brand. And I love you when you're talking about the brands that you're on the board of. Those are emerging brands, and those brands excite me so much because you can help them learn. They can help you learn. They're a little more forgiving. They don't know what they don't know, right? And we don't know about where they're trying to go. So emerging brands are really exciting to me, and that's something that I'm going to probably double down on
Love that.
this year. Along with, obviously going after some of the bigger whales out there. But we're really focused on how do we position ourselves to provide a great product for the enterprise level and emerging brands to help them grow. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
Love it.
That's great. So Craveworthy right now, I like to call that our foundation. We've acquired several brands. We've created several brands.
Every
Every week,
week.
we've acquired, we've created, and it's fascinating, right? I think it's truly the power of our team that's surrounding us. So we have phenomenal chefs, we have phenomenal IT, we have phenomenal digital, which elevates us to a level to execute on this, but it is all bringing them in-house and then correcting what's wrong and then intentionally growing at a purposeful speed, right? We can't just open 1,000 new locations because everyone loves our chicken sandwiches unless we have the foundations in place. And so that's what we've been spending a lot of time doing, which has been great. Cheers to our amazing team. And then now I think this year is really going to be, we're ready, which is exciting. So this year is going to be a lot more, stores opening, growth, all of those details, which is great, versus kind of cleaning up in-house and making everything kind of appropriate to grow. So,
I'm excited to watch Dirty Dough grow.
Yes,
Yes,
that's
that's a fun one.
That's a busy one.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that one. Yeah,
I can't wait
cookies
to
are
try
really
it.
like the hot
Wait,
thing.
did you not bring samples?
I did not. No, I did not. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I can leave if you'd like. It's fine. But no,
Next
it's
time,
next
Kim,
time.
next
I'll get
time.
you
I
guys
get to
some.
try them tomorrow, actually. I'm so excited.
There you go. Very good. Yeah.
Where? I can't tell you. I'll send you after.
I
know why.
I know you know why.
I know.
Fun.
But yes, no, it's been fun. So it's great.
That's so great.
Yes.
I'm so excited for you guys.
Thank you. It's
I
been
wish you
good.
had like a camera crew following y'all around because I feel like the story of Craveworthy is just incredible.
It'd be like a great reality TV show.
It really could be.
Yes.
There's some good highs and lows there. Yes.
Also,
Excellent.
wouldn't you love like a confession cam with Greg Majewski? Like, so
A
good.
confession cam.
That's so funny.
I don't know if you need. Yeah, I think he just. Yeah.
He just does it anyway.
He does.
Right. Yeah. I think we're good either way on that
Yeah,
one. Yes.
yeah. So let's just go around the table, say one word that you feel about the top women, the top 30 women in food, and also just kind of one word about this table of leaders.
I think it's empowering. I look at every person at this table and I know I can learn something. I can learn many things from each one of you specifically, and I would just love the opportunity for that. And then also just to follow and listen to your career paths, and then being at this table, having access to you guys is wonderful. So I'm very excited to be here. This is a very empowering table for me.
Good word.
Intelligent. And nobody gets the seat at the table without bringing it all. So I'm so inspired by the tenacious group of women that are obviously all that nominated and selected. You just look at it and you go, wow,
Yeah.
this industry is
lot of
really coming
amazing
along
women,
with some
yes.
very smart, talented women.
Yeah. 100%. Marketing.
Oh, yeah.
Great word.
I know.
Really good word.
No pressure.
Okay, the only word that comes to mind is power. And I mean, I know that's such a simple word, but like you look at that list of women and it's like, to Karen's point earlier, like think about the decisions that they're all in charge of, right? They could really like make or break this industry. And I love that each one of them has committed to like look out for each other, pave the way for people that are coming after us. And like, it's just really powerful to see women at that level. It's amazing.
Yeah. Love it.
I think for me, inspirational. Like I look at Karen's story and I'm like, wow, I can't wait to tell a story like that. Like I'm really excited. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, this has been an incredible conversation. Appreciate your time, ladies. I think we'll convene to the bar. With some dirty dough.
People are already down at the bar.
So we're
Or winning some money.
We're
But I do appreciate your time. Super talented and just inspiring overall. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you so much.
Love you,
Thanks,
love you.
everyone.